Hi guys, got a video today on adding fractions, and also what I'm going to do today is almost exactly the same to subtracting fractions. So the only difference would be the adding or subtracting part, but the whole process is almost the same. These videos will have two parts. So one will be about adding fractions that are improper or proper fractions, and the second video will be specifically about mixed numbers, so I'll get to that part another time. Why this is over this side. There we go. Ooh. Let me just play around with this and get my formatting proper. Okay, I've given up on trying to do that, but that's okay, I can still make this work anyway. Okay, so let's do a little bit of reading first. So fractions can be simplified easily using addition if they are like fractions. That is, if they have the same denominator. Okay, so that's what we mean by when we say like or unlike. So this means they have been divided up into the same number of pieces if the denominator is the same. So if two or more fractions have the same denominator, to add them, simply add the numerators and keep the denominator. This allows you to find the total number of divided pieces. So key out of that is to add the numerators, leave the denominators exactly the same. Okay, so let's do a couple of practices on that. Let's say I have a fraction that is 4/9 plus 3/9. So firstly I check, yes, my denominators are the same. So I just add across my top and that will give me 7/9. Okay, the one thing that is not mentioned in here is that we also need to simplify, if we can, our answer. Now for this one, I can't simplify 7/9 any further. It's already in its lowest form, so that's correct. So let's do one where we do have to simplify, just so you can see what that is like. So I'm going to go with 2/8 plus 4/8. Okay, so again, my denominators are the same. So I just add my tops, my numerators. That was not very mathematical, was it? And that will give me 6/8. And then if I was to simplify that, I would be dividing by 2, the highest common factor. And that will give me 3/4 as my final answer. Okay, so they're the most straightforward questions that you'll have with adding and subtracting fractions. So let's do some that are a little bit more challenging. And that's when they have different denominators. So, if the denominators are different, we use our knowledge of equivalent fractions to convert them to fractions with the same lowest common denominator. So what I'm saying is that there is essentially you need to have all of the denominators in your fractions be exactly the same as each other before you add or subtract. Okay, so these are the steps we're going to go through. To find the lowest common denominator, you usually have to multiply one denominator or both to make an equivalent fraction. Then you need to add the numerators, and as we did just before. Let's do some examples. Okay, let's say I have a fraction that is, sorry, I just had to find my examples. Okay, let's say I had the fractions of 3/4 and 7/10, adding them together. So I need to think to myself, what is the lowest common denominator that I can create for both of these fractions? So 40 would work, because I know that 4 times 10 and 10 times 4. There's actually a lower one though that would work, and that would be 20. So the purpose of finding the lower ones is just to try and keep your numbers as small as possible to make it easier to work with. So 4 times 5 gave me 20, so I do the same to the top on that side of my fraction, giving me 15. And 10 times 2 giving me 14. Okay, now that my denominators are the same in 20, I just need to add my numerators together, and so that gives me 29/20. Now, we should be in the practice now of recognizing when something is in its simplest form or not. And this is an improper fraction, so technically it wouldn't be in its simplest form until it becomes a mixed number. So remember to do that. How many times does my denominator go into my numerator? Once. 20 goes into 29 one time. 9 left over my original denominator of 20. Okay, so 1 and 9 over 20, that's as low as I can get this part of the fraction in particular, so that's my final answer. Okay, let's do one more example on that. Let's say I had the fraction 1/3 plus 1/5. Okay, so I'm thinking my lowest common multiple that would create a new denominator there is 15. Okay, what have I done to 3 to turn it into 15? I've times by 5. So I'm going to do the same to the top. So that becomes 5 over 15. What have I done to 5? I've times it by 3. So that becomes 3 over 15. So then I would have 8 over 15 as my final fraction. And then I just double check, can I simplify that any further? So there's no common factors between the two numbers of 8 and 15, so that's as low as it will go.